become like a regular practice.
It has. We just talk about all the living around you.
All right, so I'm gonna try to go through this pretty quick.
We're all hungry.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Today was, of course, a very exciting day in City Council again, where we have some amazing appointments, adding to the great leadership that we have in my administration, 60% of which are women, and a very strong, diverse cabinet. In fact, the most diverse cabinet, I believe, ever, or at least in 40 years. And so I'm very grateful that Clene Hedspeth, our Commissioner of the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events, whose visionary leadership and commitment to community engagement will ensure that Chicago remains at the forefront of cultural innovation, and inclusivity. Marlene Hopkins, thank you, Commissioner of the Department of Buildings, who has been with us for the last 25 years and has been a tremendous asset to the city of Chicago. So congratulations to both of you, and looking forward to working with you all. We also have with us Jill Jarowski and Annette Guzman from our budget director and, of course, our CFO. Also today in the meeting, we adopted resolutions honoring Arab American Heritage Month, Lesbian Visibility Week in the life of the late, great, Honorable Cook County Clerk Karen Yarbrough. And through our resolution and commitment to celebrating Arab American Heritage Month, we recognize the contributions of nearly 110,000 Arab Americans residing in the Chicagoland area, and of course, how their culture and history has shaped and advanced and have enriched our amazing city. And through our resolution of the celebration of Lesbian Visibility Week, we affirm Chicago as an inclusive, welcoming city, while amplifying the voices of our lesbian, queer, and non-binary friends. And through our resolution, again, honoring Cook County Clerk Karen Yarbrough, we recognized a trailblazer, a true politician who served Cook County in the state of Illinois honorably. A history maker, was the first African-American and the first woman to serve as the county clerk. We remember her as just an amazing woman who is committed to social justice and public health, fair housing, anti-violence, and of course, women's rights. Her leadership has left an indelible mark on our city and our county. And I express my gratitude for the life that she led. Of course, we'll continue to express our condolences to her loved ones and to all of our colleagues. May Karen continue to rest in peace. So with that, I'm happy to take questions.
We're going to do one question, one follow-up, and we're going to start with Craig Dellamore.
Thank you very much. And good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
Well, the first question is, what is since it was your allies who DNP'd the bond program and the aid for migrants, what's the tactical rationale behind not doing it today? One would think you should have already had the votes.
Yeah, look, we do. There's a very lengthy meeting today, and there are individuals that want to opine or articulate and express their hopes and aspirations for this mission. But there are still questions to be asked, and I'm grateful that there is a commitment to continue to support the migrant mission. But I'm also very much grateful that the $1.25 billion bonds deal, this, as I understand, will be one of, if not the largest bonds deal investment as it relates to housing and economic development. So it was just a simple parliamentary tactic that was used to ensure that we'll have a full, robust debate coming Friday.
And can you talk about why you don't want to change the threshold for where the council should be able to have a say?
Yeah, so there's a $5 million threshold that was offered up. This is unprecedented. I'm the first mayor in the history where there's a threshold, particularly as it relates to bonds and spending. This is my commitment to collaboration.
Hey, Mayor.
Hey, Jake.
Hey. Close allies of yours also delayed a vote on the ShotSpotter order Alderman Moore said afterwards that means your administration thinks the order would have passed if it came up for a vote today. Do you think it will pass if and when it comes up for a vote? And also, do you think the order's effort to take control of the contract out of your hands has legal standing?
It doesn't. There's no process by which you could govern through a la carte. It just doesn't exist. So I made my decision. Look, to build a better, stronger, safer Chicago, we have to do what works. As we wean ourselves off of tactics and strategies that have not produced the type of results that the people of Chicago are counting on, we extended the contract to give our community partners, the police department, our alders, an opportunity to come up and think through other forms of technology and other forms of public safety tactics that we can use to ultimately keep our community safe. So, this effort, that's being led, I do appreciate, the spirit of it, but it does not have the legal standing to do that type of ward by ward contracting. It just doesn't exist.
I spoke with a number of aldermen in high shooting wards who are backing the push for the order, and they told me that they hadn't heard from your administration about why they should vote with you. What do you say to them that, and how have you worked with them?
So I thank you for that question. I live in one of those wards. If there's any mayor in the history of Chicago who understands what it's like to live in a beautiful community that's riddled with disinvestment and has not had strategic investments into those communities, I'm that mayor. I've had an ongoing, strong relationship with the entire city council, and I'm committed to making sure that these conversations that we have to build a better, stronger, safer Chicago, it has to be centered around tactics and investments that actually work.
Hi, Mayor. The city's ethics board says it can't take more serious action against 4 lobbyists who had improperly donated to your political campaign. And they say they lack the authority to actually enforce that 2011 executive order Mayor Emanuel had signed. Do you support codifying via ordinance the board's enforcement powers under that executive order?
So I haven't had a chance to spend a lot of time thinking about that. As I understand that those individuals that donated who did not know that they were in violation, that those funds have been returned.
But do you support enforcing that and codifying that enforcement power in ordinance?
I'll take another look at it.
And I guess, do you feel like your campaign needs stronger safeguards just to ensure lobbyist contributions aren't being accepted in the first place?
So we have created a structure that has ensured, to the best of our ability, individuals who donate, who fall, in that particular category, that they don't do it. Look, there are people who donate sometimes without us even soliciting. This is not it's not uncommon.
Hey, Mayor.
Hey.
Frustrations with lackluster train and bus service remain really high across the city. As we approach your 1-year anniversary in office, tell us what you've done to improve transit service in Chicago.
Well, first of all, there's been a number of concerns that people have had about safety. And as you may know, the violence that has happened historically or traditionally on our public transportation system, we've seen a reduction there. We just had another great graduation with CTA, another 200 workers. I believe 97% of them were black. So we're going to continue to grow the workforce. We're going to continue to make sure that our public transportation system is safe. And of course, we're going to continue to build towards a more reliable system. Look, I've taken advantage of our transportation system. If you know that the Green Line is my preferred line, and when I was a Cook County Commissioner, I had a parking spot that I never used it because I took the Green Line to work, and I'm a big avid supporter of our public transportation system. We're going to continue to do everything that we can to make sure that it's world class.
Do you still have confidence in CTA leadership?
Well, as I've said before, we continue to evaluate all of our leaders, and Dorville Carter is no exception there. And as we continue to evaluate leadership and to make sure that leadership is responding to the vision that I have for the city of Chicago, we'll continue to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to support leadership. But in the event that they don't live up to our expectation, then we'll make another decision.
Shia?
Thank you so much. Hi, Mayor. I heard you speak last night to all the Democrats who were in town.
What you think about it?
It was a great speech.
Appreciate the
Some of it I've
confidence.
heard before, but they hadn't. They loved it. They ate it up.
It's a
That was
standing
good.
ovation, wasn't it?
They gave you a big applause. They
No,
were.
it was actually a standing ovation. It was, though. You saw it, right?
It was good. It was good.
Pretty humbling.
And it was you gave a rousing endorsement for President Biden, Kamala Harris. So I'm wondering if you are concerned that there's alderman, talks about not wanting the Democratic convention here. Have you called in the alderman to talk about that? Are you concerned about that?
The DNC is going to be in Chicago. It's a good thing. The concerns that people have about the DNC is really related to certain policies. So if you're asking me if I'm going to call people in about, their frustration with the type of, expression of war, we've had those conversations. Look, I'll be the first to admit, as a party, we are the best party in charge. We are. And we do have, challenges within our own party where there are differing opinions. That's what makes us a strong, party. So, no, the DNC is coming to Chicago, and I have complete confidence that not only will the greatest freaking city in the world be on display, but we're going to put ourselves in a position to continue to build a better, stronger Chicago and really, a stronger economy for this country.
Are you getting questions at all, or how do you talk to anybody that comes into town for the DNC about, protests at O'Hare? Or what is the message you tell them?
Well, as I said, that there is a great deal of frustration that exists, and we can't be intimidated by people's frustration. What I'm doing is ensuring that that the city of Chicago is fully prepared, and that's from our advocates who want to see substantive changes around a number of things, to our police department that's working to ensure that people who protest and those who are attending the convention are safe.
So that bill, or the measure today, you're probably very supportive of, I guess.
Well, it passed unanimously, and that was important that we got it done today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Craig Wall?
Sorry if her shoulder got thrown out to pass me the microphone. If I can just follow up on that, Mayor. Earlier this week, the police superintendent said that after what happened at O'Hare, that they are going to have plans in place and they're not going to tolerate those kind of disruptive demonstrations. Alderman Hopkins, talking about his ordinance today, which, as you noted, passed unanimously, said that that's something that can't be tolerated anyways. Where do you stand on that, and what's the right balance to strike with demonstrations and protecting safety and allowing people to get around?
Well, that's it. It has to be safe, right? And so the balance is, this is a country that, quite frankly, we're not where we are absent protest. I'm not the mayor of the city of Chicago if we don't have protests. There were an entire group of people who protested this government, calling for black liberation, right? So there is something to be said about a country that understands that protest has value. And in this instance, as people descend upon the city of Chicago, we have to keep people safe. Look, the energy and the excitement that's around the city of Chicago right now is quite enormous, and I'm grateful. We have delegates who are already coming in from all over the country, expressing that excitement, and I'm confident that our police department, working in coordination with other enforcing agencies, that we do our due diligence to keep our economy moving, but to also make sure that those who are protesting and those who are surrounded, by these activities, that everyone is safe.
Mayor, to revisit the ShotSpotter issue, with so many older people in South and West Side wards supporting the ShotSpotter technology, would you ever reconsider your decision on that contract?
So, as I stated before, I know that public safety is top of mind for the entire city of Chicago. right? It's not just the west and south sides of Chicago, right? And there are people who voted for me who knew what my position was around ShotSpotter. Like, this didn't just pop up. There's no surprise here. Here's what I've said repeatedly. The safest cities in America invest in people. That's what the people of Chicago responded to. How are we investing in people to cut off this supply of individuals who wish to terrorize our communities? Now, here's the other thing about it. The ShotSpotter dynamic, people have expressed or articulated this as violence prevention. It doesn't prevent violence. It responds to shootings. And quite frankly, 85, 90% of those responses led to nothing. But what I did do was, because I'm a collaborator, I believe in working with people. And as you talk about the older folks on the west and south side of Chicago who helped raise me, there's no one who understands public safety in this moment better than someone who is living in the community in which I'm raising my family in. And that's why, as we work to wean ourselves off of this form of technology, I said, let's continue to work together. Let's get some evidence. Let's collaborate. Let's find if there are other forms of technology that are available. But, you know, I could have canceled it right away. I could have, right? But I didn't do that because I believe in working with people. So that's what I'm doing.
So to be clear, you will not reconsider your decision on that. You are ending the contract.
I've already made my decision.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
I'm curious to pivot a little here to the $70 million. The Sun-Times had reported that Tony Preckwinkle had made calls to encourage alders to support the $70 million request. I'm wondering, has the fact that your office reneged or at least delayed moving on that $70 million request and the fact that Preckwinkle had to make these calls to encourage alders, has that strained the relationship between your peer and also your former mentor?
No. So let's try to get a few things straight here. I did not renege on anything, all right? I did not renege on anything. There was a conversation, as we've had multiple conversations, about how the state and the county and the city have to continue to come together to collaborate around this mission. Because you have someone who wants to be president of the United States of America again, who has blocked substantive legislation from actually moving through Congress to have real immigration reform. That's the first problem. The second thing is you have a tyrant at the border, Governor Abbott, who is determined to sow seeds of chaos. He has not succeeded because we are collaborating with the state and the county. What those conversations entailed, I needed to make sure that commitments and agreements around how dollars were going to be spent could help us with this mission. As the state and the county has made commitments and agreements around a host of dynamics that were important for my colleagues at the city council level, as those commitments were secured, it put us in the position to do what we were already prepared for. The $70 million that's been floated, we already knew that there was a possibility or the likelihood of needing to return and have this question asked again about resources related to this mission. And so that's why they're in the reserves in the first place. We planned for it. You know, and as far as our relationship is strong. It's not uncommon. Do you know I talk to state reps? And I'm not the first mayor to talk to state reps. Do you know I talk to state senators? I talk to the Senate president. I talk to the Speaker of the House. I talk to the governor. I talk to county commissioners. Most of them miss me. It's not uncommon for us to have these conversations. We call that collaborative government. So it's not a strain. No one forced anyone to do anything. This is a part of a collective operation. And maybe it's just something that some people are not accustomed to. But this is a part of our practice. We share the responsibility in this moment. We have to.
If I can just follow up, you talk about there was that likelihood that $70 million would be floated. I guess I'm a little confused. Did you not know that you had the $70 million in reserve when you met with the governor and President Preckwinkle back in February? Because it just kind of seems like, I don't know, suddenly you guys found the money in the couch cushions.
No, there's nothing sudden. And you don't have to be confused. It was actually part of our budget. There are actual dollars in reserves. So it's there, it's open, it's transparent. So I hope that clears up because I don't want anyone to be confused, not in this moment.
Hey, Mayor. So last week, your administration, the CFO, I know was involved in this meeting, held meetings with the White Sox and Bears, and the White Sox brought up a proposal to take a portion of the city's amusement tax and dedicate that to help build new stadiums for the two teams, right? Can you comment on that? Why? And I reported that that was rejected by the city. Can you comment why that was rejected? And if that's rejected, are there any other lines of revenue that could be on the table, city revenue, to help the teams?
Well, look, we rely upon those dollars to make the necessary investments to build a better, stronger, safer Chicago. So we didn't like the idea. It's just pretty much that simple. We need, more affordable housing, which we're working to do that. We need more economic development in our main corridors. There are so many needs that we have in Chicago that it's imperative that we do everything in our power to make sure that the lion's share of those resources actually make it to the neighborhoods. As far as other forms of revenue, we have not made any of those. We have not made any commitments, and not in that regard. Here's what our standard is. It's pretty straightforward. That there has to be public benefit and public use. That's it. If we're going to build 21st century stadiums, we have to make sure that that investment is activating the entire city of Chicago. And these conversations, particularly with the Bears, have been quite positive. I appreciate the leadership of Kevin Warren. And we're going to continue to have conversations with the White Sox as well. I saw Jerry Reinsdorf just yesterday. We were planting a tree, got a chance to meet Harold Baines. That was pretty cool too. So, but no, we have not made any commitments to any forms of revenue.
Thus far, the chairman Reinsdorf has not put any of his money or the team's money on the table. Do you think that has to happen to get a deal done?
Well, I've always said that that we have that ownership has to put some skin in the game, and I know there's some motivation, on his part. It's just a matter of coming to an understanding of what that type of investment will look like, and that's something that that he and his organization will have to work through.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
During the Budget Committee discussion the other day, even alder people who said that they would support the $70 million funding request noted the inadequate participation of the federal government in funding this mission. And I know that your budget director, Annette Guzman, said that this would probably be, or this is your aim to be the last funding request this year for this from the City Council. What can you do for the remainder of the year to make good on that promise and ensure that the federal government
Well, look, that's a good question, because this goes back to perhaps another question that was asked from a previous reporter. This is the fourth time that I've asked the City Council for resources. Look, I appreciate what the governor is doing. I appreciate what President Preckwinkle is doing. This is not my first time. My first major act as mayor was to secure $51 million because the previous city council punted and they didn't take it up, of which I exposed the fact that $51 million that we put forth this mission, $47 million went to staffing, which we've been in the process of renegotiating that and moving out of the complete reliance upon this state contract and favorite staffing. We have what we have. We don't have an inordinate amount of reserves, and the federal government has to act. And look, we have done it differently in Chicago. Everywhere else in this country, they have placed some limitations, restrictions. We've educated, and we're educating over 11,000 children right now who are migrants. We have resettled thousands of families thanks to the good work of the state of Illinois, providing health care, putting people on the pathway to work. while also making investments in the unhoused, violence prevention, opening up mental health clinics, providing this progressive platform that I was elected to carry out. Yeah, this has been a strain on Chicago. And you have other cities sending people to the city of Chicago. I'm grateful that the governor has shown some commitment to standing up beds, because that pressure that the city of Chicago has had to endure, an unprecedented level of pressure, for the first time in the history of the world where a local municipality is being asked to hold down resettlement for migrants. That has literally never happened. And the city is standing firm and strong on it, but there are some stresses. And so we have what we have in reserves. We get this commitment from city council. There are very little to no options available to us if the federal government does not come in strong.
And if I may follow up, I know that what was mentioned the other day is that you all have regular meetings with the White House and federal officials. What are some of the reasons, I'm curious, that you're being told for the federal government not pitching in?
Yeah, you got a jacked up Congress. You all know what I asked for. I think I asked for $10 billion for the country, and they came in quite short. And look, the former president of this country, Donald Trump, spoke to his crew and told them not to move on substantive immigration policy and reform. He told them not to do it, and they listened to him. And it's left the rest of our cities left to fend for themselves. And then his co-conspirator in Texas doesn't have the gall to stand up to him. He says he has this crisis, which he does, but his own party refuses to act. And so now you have a mayor in the city of Chicago, the mayor of New York, the mayor of Denver, where we're all working together to try to create some calm and some structure around this. As I said, not one bus has arrived in the city of Chicago since December. Not one bus since we passed our ordinance. And so now the governor is using municipalities around our jurisdiction to still create chaos. That's some real wicked stuff. And we're doing our very best to respond to this crisis, to be open, to be transparent, to provide a very humane response to this crisis. So, it's unfortunate the Republican Party is more interested in elections than they are actual people's lives.
Monica?
Good afternoon, Mayor. This afternoon, the Chicago Sun-Times is reporting on a petition to allow Chicagoans to recall their mayor. Former Governor Quinn is saying that you should embrace it and just see it as the democratic process. Will you embrace it, and how do you feel about this?
Well, as I understand it, apparently, the extreme right wing in this country, they're not very pleased with the fact that 60% of my administration are women, that 43% of those who make up my administration are black, 25% are brown, 30% are white. Perhaps they're also intimidated by the fact that, we've passed paid time off, thousands of workers. We've abolished sub-minimum wage, which has its roots in history, in slavery. Apparently they're intimidated by the crew that's with me right now. I plan on being here for the next 23 years.
So you will not embrace it?
I will work to help build a better, stronger, safer Chicago over the next 23 years.
Alice?
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
As the next CTU contract is being negotiated, I wanted to revisit your transition team's plan to expand sustainable community schools from at first to 50 and then to 200. Do you still think that will be possible given the deficit? And is the path to that looking for sure to go to Springfield or other sources?
Well, look, the need to actually build strong neighborhood schools is something that all Chicagoans agree on. Everyone agrees to that. And someone who was taught in our public school system, I can tell you what an underfunded school looks like. It can be humiliating for families. It really can be. And so building a system of care that provides full wraparound services, that's my vision for our public school system. After all, as W.B. Du Bois said, it's a Negro idea. And so what I want for my children, I want for everyone. A fully funded system. And sustainable community schools has been a model that has worked. And this is something that will have national implications as well. Look, there's no secret. The city of Chicago is underfunded by $1 billion by the state's own measurement. $1 billion, where a school district that is made up of, 87%, almost 90% are black and brown children. It's a school district that has been underfunded historically. And so, again, my vision for the city of Chicago is to make sure that the children and the families who rely upon public accommodations, just like my family does, that they have everything that they need.
On a broader note, a year ago, we were in Springfield talking about your agenda there. A lot of it kind of overlaps with priorities now, migrants, CPS, the local government distributive fund. Will you be making another big visit to the State House this spring? And whether or not you'll physically be there, how have your asks evolved in urgency or substance?
Yeah, so yes, I will be there again. Look, my team is there, and we're engaged with our state officials on a regular basis. Have a strong relationship with the Speaker of the House. All of you know my first government job was with the Senate President, State Senator Don Harmon at that time, now the Senate President. It's an urgent moment, as we know that this homelessness crisis it's a national problem. I've been in conversations with Mayor Karen Bass, and she's leading a delegation to Washington, D.C. around this issue. So whether it's our education system, whether it's housing, community safety, all of this is urgent. And, I'm looking forward to being in Springfield and having those conversations that some of them we've had in Chicago, but taking it right to the Capitol, because the people of Chicago deserve a strong advocate who's going to push for the type of funding that allows us to build a better, stronger, safer Chicago.
Marianne?
Mayor, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
On the question of the recall, I think the question was not so much, whether or not, of course, who would ever want to be recalled? No one. But should the voters have that opportunity? They can recall a governor. They can't recall any mayors in the state. Do you think voters should have that opportunity?
Look, I think voters get an opportunity every 2 years, every 4 years. Again, what is disingenuous about this so-called development, it's some dude from the suburbs who's mad about the diversity and the formation in which we have put forward. We've had mayors close schools. We have mayors who have shut down public housing. We have mayors who have woefully underfunded many of the public assets that we are working to establish and build. So any individual that is somehow insulted by this progressive agenda that, quite frankly, is being led by one of the most diverse cabinets in the history of Chicago. I just call into question, anyone who will be motivated to see this type of transformation disrupted.
Also, on the CTU contract, I know we asked you many times during the campaign, but what role will you play as those contract talks begin? Do you recuse yourself? Do you stay a part of it? There are a lot of folks who wonder, because of your obvious experience, should you still play a role?
Yeah, that's a fair question. I'll answer it the same way. There have been mayors who've had financial backgrounds. And even with those financial backgrounds, no one asked them to recuse themselves from negotiating deals and contracts with financial interests that they've had relationships with, and in some cases have had a vested interest in. Now, as far as how I approach, this work, is that it's an asset to actually have, a parent be a part of this conversation. I'm a parent first. As far as how my administration will engage, the CEO of our Chicago Public Schools is appointed by me. And so as he negotiates, he will negotiate the vision that I've set out. That's it. The vision that I have for our public school system is to make sure that every single child has everything that they need. That is my heart. That is my conviction. That is my responsibility.
Thanks, everyone. That was the last question.
Oh, thank you all very much. Oh, that wasn't so bad. See there?